All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with our risk versus return math study guide. Number 1 states you expect that an investment could gain or lose as much as 30% in a year. Your investment is $6,000. What is the lowest value you expect at the end of the year? So first things first, let's figure out how much we could either gain or lose, because it says we could gain or lose as much as 30% in a year. So let's start with our original investment of $6,000 and multiply it by 30%. Remember to change 30% to a decimal. We're going to take that decimal, which is here, we're going to move it 2 places to the left, so 0.3 times 6,000 is going to give us $1,800. So we know within a year we could lose up to $1,800 or we could gain up to $1,800 with this particular investment. Now the question says, what is the lowest value you expect at the end of the year? So we're going to be talking about a loss in this situation. So if we started with a $6,000 investment, to figure out how much it is possible to lose, or the lowest value, we're going to subtract that 30% we calculated. So 6,000 minus 1,800 would bring us to a total of our lowest value we could expect of $4,200 for the year. All right, let's take a look at number 2. So this states you lost on a bad investment. You sell the investment and reinvest in a different stock. What investment return do you need in order to get back to your original amount? So let's start with, let's say we invested, just for example, $100. We invested $100 and we actually lost 30% of our original investment. So 30% of 100, so let's multiply that by 30%, means that we actually lost $30 of our original investment. So let's start with our original investment, and now we know if we subtract the $30 we lost, we have $70 remaining in our original investment. So what we need to figure out is how do we make up that $30 we lost by reinvesting the $70 into a new investment. So here's how we're going to do that. Our original investment was $100, and we want to be equal to the $70. That's how much we're reinvesting. We're going to multiply that 1 plus R. So that's going to be our return that we need to get back to our original $100 over here where we were at before. We are investing the 70 we had remaining, and then we want our rate of return plus 1 to equal our $100 we started with. So looking at this equation here, what we need to do is we need to divide both sides by 70. So that relieves us with 1 plus R on the second side here. Dividing 100 by 70 is going to give us a slightly uneven number, but we're just going to put 1.43 round to the nearest 100, and that leaves us with 1 plus R on the other side. So to both sides of this equation, what we're going to do is we are going to subtract 1 to get R on the side by itself. So when we subtract 1.43 minus 1, we know that R has to equal 0.43 or 43% return to get back our original investment. Number 3 says you graph some investment options on a Cartesian graph with risk on the y-axis, so that's over here, and return on the x-axis. If you draw a best fit line, you would expect 2. So again, we know as our return is increasing from an investment, the riskier it is, or vice versa, the higher risk, the higher possibility of return. So looking at the line we've drawn based on risk and return and the correlation between them, we see an upward sloping positive line. So number 4 would be the best answer here for number 3. Again, upward sloping positive slope between return and risk. All right, let's move on to number 4, and you guys may have done these before, but we're going to be talking about variances. So number 4 states the variance of a series of numbers is the sum of squares of their variances from the mean average of the numbers divided by the number of items in the series. Variance is a common measure of risk. What is the variance between these investment returns, 20, 60, and 40? So the first thing we're going to do with these three numbers is find the mean. So let's add them together first, 20, 60, and 40. That is going to give us a total of 120 sum. And then we're going to divide it by the numbers in our series. So there were 3 numbers. So we're going to divide 120 by 3 to get our mean of 40. The next thing we're going to do is see how far away each of these are from our mean of 40. So we'll start with 20, and then 60, and then finally 40 at the end. But we need to figure out how far these are apart. So 20 away from 40 is another 20 points. 60 away from 40 is another 20 points. And 40 is already 40, so there is no need for a difference there. What we're going to do with these differences, though, is we're going to add the sum of their squares. So we've got 20 to the second power. We're going to add that to, again, 20 to the second power. Now remember, 40 and 40 was 0, so we don't need to do anything with that. So that's going to be 20 to the second power will be 400 plus 20 to the second power again would be another 400, which equals the sum of 800. The last thing we're going to do here is divide by our number in the series, which is 3, to give us our variance of 266.67. So again, to walk through a variance series, you're going to add them all together, divide by the number in the series, so finding the mean. Then you're going to find the difference between those numbers and the mean. Whatever differences you find, you're going to square those and add those squares together. And then once again, to find the variance, just divide by the number in the series. And that will give you the variance between them. Let's take a look at number 5. In number 5 is simply asking us, assume the risk and return are positively related. And we saw that based with the graph in number 3. Which algebraic form best represents this relationship? So take a look here. Risk is equal to m times return, where m is negative. So for example, we want a positively related. So if m is a negative number, if we multiply something by, let's say, -1, that in return would make that number negative. So this would not be the equation to represent what we are looking for. Number 2 says risk is equal to m times return, where m is 0. So we know if we multiply anything by 0, we're simply going to get the number 0. So again, not positively related. So that is not correct. Our third and final option says risk equals m times return, where m is positive. So if we multiply something by a +1, we are going to get a positive number. So this is going to be our best answer for number 5.